time again then for another in-depth breakdown for Marvel's Midnight Suns. Today we will have a look at Captain Marvel, and in the video we'll cover absolutely everything you need to know. Now we start off with an overview where we'll talk about our general playstyle. We'll then move on to the cards next. I'll show off the tier 2 version of the cards. I'll tell you which ones I recommend. We'll then have the stat next. I'll talk about the stats priority and which ones you want to aim for in Captain Marvel. We have the Hangouts and the friendship system. We'll talk about the best Hangouts to go on to get the most friendship points. Next up is the challenge mission, and then finishing up we'll show off a little gameplay and I'll do a quick summary of everything we've covered as well. Now if the video is helpful, take the time to hit the like, share and subscribe button, and with that out of the way, let's dive in and let's start breaking this down. Characters then in Midnight Suns can fall into 3 different categories. You've got your damage, support and then your tank style characters. Now Captain Marvel without a doubt is a hybrid character in that she'll put out a nice amount of damage, but she can do some tanking as well. Now like the other hybrid characters I've actually looked at, with the exception of the Hulk, I think she suffers a little bit because she is doing 2 roles. Now within her kit, and I think this is the reason that her skills are perhaps tuned a little bit on the lower side, within her kit she's got a binary mechanic. So when you play 3 Captain Marvel cards, you then get a free card that you can actually use called binary that allows you to go into the binary status. When you're in this state, you'll deal an additional 100% damage, which is really a whopping amount, especially if you combine it alongside strength. That's an additional 150% damage you get. You'll stay in that state as long as you have block on you as well. So I do feel that she takes a lot of setup. Firstly, you need to get into binary to get the damage boost, to bring the base low numbers on her cards up to a higher state, and then on top of that you need to make sure you've got some blocks so you stay in that binary status as well. So under the right circumstances she can be amazing. One of her particular moves I've been close to put out around about 3000 damage on it. It's actually a card you can see at the moment, it's called Rain of Blows, but I've been close to putting out 3000 damage on that, but it required around about, I would say, about 8 minutes of setup and other rounds to get to that point on her. So yeah, she requires a lot of setup, but once she gets there she does hit like a truck. But that's a quick breakdown. Let's now go in and we'll actually talk about the cards available for her. For this section here then we'll break down the 10 different cards that are available for Captain Marvel. We'll look at the tier 2 upgraded version of these cards and I'll give you my thoughts on them. In regards to mods, I'm not going to touch on this too much. Sometimes when it's relevant I'll quickly mention it, but I'm going to do more in-depth deep dive videos at a later date on particular mods you can add to cards, because there are literally hundreds of different options and I'm still collating information, but we will get into it at a later date. Now for the cards for Captain Marvel, the first one we look at is a card that just about all the characters has, really useful for taking out minions without it costing a card play. This is Quick Jab. So this particular one, it's got Taunt on it. The Taunt is pretty useless because you should be using this card to take out a minion, so you're not going to be taunting them after you've taken them out, but it's got Taunt, it's got Quick, so if you take out a minion it doesn't cost a card play, and then if Captain Marvel has binary it has knockback. That can be useful for potentially taking out 2 lower level minions. I will just say in regards to mods on this card, because Captain Marvel's a character I've already mentioned takes a while to get going and it feels like her base damage on the low side. I've not seen this in any other heroes yet, but on this particular card for Captain Marvel she has the option of adding Strengthened. That gives you an additional 50% damage for that entire turn if you get a KO, and you should be using the Quick card to actually get a KO. So this is a pretty amazing mod, and to be honest I'd say it's probably essential if you want to be hitting decent damage numbers with Captain Marvel. So this card, you want to take 1 or 2 of these and try and get the Strengthen mod on them as well. The next card we have here is Knee Strike. This one can be useful for staying in your binary status. So with this one here, you've got your base damage, you generate 1 heroism, it's got Taunt in it, you gain block equal to the damage dealt. So once again, in order to stay in binary you need to actually block on Captain Marvel, so this can be useful. I'm just going to mention mods again because I feel she is quite reliant on them. I've managed to be lucky and get a mod on this that on KO it actually gives me resist, so that means the next time I take damage, or the next time I should be taking damage, I actually won't take any damage at all. And once again that ties in really nice with the trying to stay in binary, because if you're not taking damage then you're not having any of your block consumed, so this can be a really useful card. The final attack card we have here is Cosmic Ray. The base damage is on the lower side, however with this card, if the target is targeting Captain Marvel, and remember she does have quite a fair amount of taunt in her kit, then you deal additional damage, you deal a decent amount there, and on KO you gain 1 counter as well, so that can be really important. If you try and have a ton of enemies actually targeting you, you'll activate your binary. If you can gain counter, it means you'll be countering all the attacks at the end of your turn, and you'll be doing an additional 100% damage when you're doing that as well. As mentioned then earlier on in the video, Captain Marvel takes a lot of setup to really get going, so if you're really wanting to focus in and make her your main card player, then this is a fantastic card for it. This is called One Step Ahead. With this particular one, you'll draw Captain Marvel cards until you have 4 in your hand. That's a nice easy way to get enough cards so you can get the binary status active on her. Once again, I'm just going to quickly say for mods, I've had a mod in this that actually adds counter as well, so if you can get that particular mod on it, you're drawing Captain Marvel cards, you're gaining your 2 heroism. Overall a really good card, and you want to have 1 or 2 of these in your kit. This next card is a really nice hybrid one. It allows her to put out damage and do some tanking as well. It's called Bring It On. With this, you'll taunt each enemy in an area. You gain 1 counter, and if Captain Marvel has binary, then you gain 2 resist as well. So that's your next 2 attacks you're taking 0 damage, which again will allow you to maintain your block and stay in that binary status to get that additional 100% damage. So you definitely want one of these cards in your kit, and to top it all off as well, it's got 2 heroism that it will be generating for you. The next card we have here is Regroup, so another skill based card here, generating 2 heroism. It gives you block and it gives you health. Yes, it's nice to get block because I've mentioned numerous times in this video it helps you maintain your binary status, however it's a small amount of block. In later difficulties that will essentially only be 1 hit, so to be honest with you, only been able to take 8 cards in, this isn't a card type that I can recommend at all. We then move on to the heroic cards next. This particular one costs 2 heroic energy. It's called Fists of Radiance. Decent amount of base damage on this. It has knockback, and on KO you can draw a Captain Marvel card, so if you're looking to go all in with her, this can be useful. I don't think it's an amazing card or anything like that though, so it is one that, to be honest, I'm probably 50-50 on whether or not you actually need this in your deck. We then have Photon Beam next. This one is 3 heroic energy. It just does slightly less damage than the last attack, but you actually damage and taunt each enemy in a line, and when you upgrade this to tier 2 there's an increased width. So the last skill that we looked at and the last card we looked at, this was only a single target attack, it was 2 heroism. This one you can hit a fair amount of enemies if they're lined up right, and it's only 1 additional heroism, so I would take this card over the previous one. So this next card type we have here, there's various characters that have a card such as this where you'll do a set amount of damage based on how much heroism you have, but you consume all that heroism at all. Now I wasn't a fan of that because wiping out all your heroism really could leave you pretty short. However, recently I've noticed a combination with Nico. She has a card that means that your heroic cards don't cost any energy, but you still get the benefit of them if they're a card such as this. So for this particular card, don't use it if you're not running Nico in your team. If you're running Nico in your team, use it and it can be amazing. It's called Rain of Blows. So with this you consume all heroism to deal damage for each heroism, and then you consume all block to use it as well. So you will go out of binary when you use this, which is a bit of a pain, but I managed to get a crit version of this card earlier on. I had Nico in my team so it didn't cost me any heroism. I had 10 heroism and I would have been hitting the particular enemy for 2600 damage, and to be honest I've not really leveled up Captain Marvel that much, so I reckon you could probably get around about 3000 damage on her with this particular setup. So yeah, an absolute fantastic card, but only if you are running a team alongside Nico as well. The final card we look at here is of course the legendary Midnight Suns card. So this particular one, it's called Supernova. With this you'll damage each enemy in an area and you get an increased area of effect when you actually upgrade that as well. So this particular card, it doesn't hit that much for a Midnight Suns card, but I think it's offset by the fact that it's only 2 heroic energy. That's definitely on the lower side, and with the increased area of effect it can hit a decent amount of enemies as well, so I would say it is worthwhile putting this card in your deck. But that is all the cards. Let's now talk about the stats. So via something known as daily sparring in the game, you can actually focus farm particular stats for characters. You have a stat that will come up on a particular day, and then you can choose a hero you want to train in that stat. Once you've done that, you can't use them for the next 4 days, so you want to make sure you're using the most relevant stats. Now for Captain Marvel, the ones that I would say you want to focus on, you've got your crit chance and your crit damage. They're pretty obvious there. Fortitude can work out nice as well. This gives her a set amount of block at the start of the fight, and the more block she's got, the more likely she'll be able to maintain binary status for that extra 100% damage. On top of that as well, if you're looking to go really all in with her, it can be worthwhile focusing on the power stat. This increases the size of your AoE. Now she's got 2 AoE skills. She's got her taunt in the first instance, which can be nice if you taunt a larger amount of enemies and you've then got counter, but on top of that as well, you've got that legendary card, and you can actually get the size of the AoE on it to a decent amount if you focus on this stat. So that's the stats to look out for her. Now let's talk about the Hangouts and the friendship system. Hangouts and the friendship system is incredibly important in Midnight Suns. This system, firstly, when you get to level 5, allows you to unlock your Midnight Suns card and your Midnight Suns costume. After that, it turns into a prestige system where every 10 friendship points you go up, you gain a random stat increase in your character, so it can really make a huge difference. In order to make that huge difference, you want to choose the best options for the Hangouts. Your heroes will either love, like, or dislike a Hangout. If they dislike it, 0 points. If they like it, it's 5 points. If they love it, it's 9 points. So the ones that Captain Marvel loves and you want to go on with her are reading by the fire, stargazing, playing cards, and working out. During the day, once per playthrough, you can go on a special hangout. The one you want to choose for Captain Marvel for that would be Picnic. Now, a lot of information to take in, I do realise that, so I've actually got an infographic coming in the next few days that will have all the hangouts for the different characters on one screen, so you can take a screenshot of it and it'll be nice and easy to refer back to, and that is coming in the next few days. The next section now, this will be the challenge mission. Challenge mission then is another important element to maxing out your character in Midnight Suns. This allows you to unlock your legendary Midnight Suns card. Now, you unlock the ability to take this on once you hit level 5 friendship for a character. It is essentially a puzzle of sorts where you have to play your cards in a very particular order in order to actually beat the challenge and unlock the cards. So for this segment, it's just simply a case of the moves that I'm doing here, you want to follow them exactly. As long as you do that, you'll be able to destroy the crystal, and that in turn will give you once again your legendary Midnight Suns card. So I'll let this gameplay play out here, and then to finish off the video in just a moment, I'll give some general thoughts and I'll show off some gameplay as well. So generally then, when it comes to this final gameplay segment, I'll show off a whole match where I try and really concentrate on playing the particular character. Now, for Captain Marvel, I'm only going to show off the last turn or two. The reason for that, and I think it perfectly encapsulates what I said earlier on in the video for her, is she just takes so long to get going. So to get to this point where I could absolutely kick ass, you can see they've got a pretty amazing Rune of Blows coming up here. That's pretty incredible, to be honest. It is a crit version of it, but to get to that point probably took me about 10 minutes or so. I don't want to add that into the video because it will really just ramp up the overall length of it. So once again, she can be a really strong character, but it takes an absolute age to get her to that point, and depending on the actual stage you're doing, some of your stages are timed, so you might not actually have enough time to actually get to that stage. So yeah, I think if you're a Captain Marvel fan, you'll persevere with her. Personally, I don't see myself using her too much, other than occasionally try to do what I've just done in that video there and do a 2400 crit, which is pretty fun, admittedly. But that is everything you need to know for Captain Marvel. If the video has been helpful, take the time to hit the like, share and subscribe button, and thanks for tuning in for this. Stay safe, and I'll see you all again soon.